Welcome to Watermark's Church Leadership Podcast, conversation with church leaders for church leaders, and I'm your host, John McGee. Well, hey friends, this is the last episode of the year, and I hope this has been a year of faithfulness for you, whatever faithfulness has looked like, however you would define it. I hope you look back at this year from the vantage point of today and are just grateful for the ways that God used you, grateful for the ways that you grew, grateful for the ways that you just showed up and were faithful. And also, I'm praying, we just prayed as before we hit record, that you're dreaming about next year, how God could use you, what it would look like to have kind of, a good year of faithfulness, of effectiveness, and just be, really what you could best discern, be obedient in this next season. And so what I'd love to do is share with you something I just did with my directors on my team, share with you some things I'm going to do just to kind of evaluate myself, some things that are just left to do on my list this year. I'll commit to you to do them. And just say thanks as we head into the end of the year. So recently we did our directors retreat. So for my team, directors would be kind of like the senior leaders on our team. We went away for 48 hours, had a great time just catching up. We were trying to align kind of gifts, making sure everybody was doing the right things. That was a big part of our time, and just kind of understanding what people were uniquely gifted to do, where they were passionate about, where they were seeing wins, and what was still left to do on a team. Just kind of, that was a big part of it, get alignment. We competed, and one of the people on my team lost, and their consequence was they had to do what's called PowerPoint karaoke, if you haven't done that. So it was Elise, she is our director of marketing, and so the rest of us made a PowerPoint deck for her that she had never seen, and she had to present it, and it was so funny. So it started really, really simply. It was, just some just kind of generic marketing terms, ended as it kind of went on even more and more ridiculous, and on her feet, she had to explain for the very first time as she saw these, these different kind of, crazy images, what they meant. And one of my favorites was the last one was, see if I can remember, it was a hippo shooting fire out of its mouth, being ridden by a dolphin wearing a spacesuit with in the corner were two wolves howling. So that was her point number 10, and she had to decide what that meant. And she just said, hey, when we think about serving people and communicating with them, we need to do so in a really unexpected way. And this is unexpected. This is interesting. We need to be more like that. And so it was really funny. That is not the point of this podcast, but if you're looking for something fun to do with your team, PowerPoint roulette or PowerPoint karaoke, I think can be so funny if you get the right person there. But what we did, or what I had them do the last morning we were together, I just made up some bullet points and shot them to them that night and gave them some time in the morning to kind of go over these. And I'll just give them to you here. And as you think about kind of the end of the year, think about what's next for you. This was an exercise that yielded some pretty good conversations for us. So what I asked them to do was take the number 80 and subtract their current age. So if you were 40, that means the number that you would be left with is 40. Okay, so 80 minus your current age, whatever that number is. And that, for the most part, is how many years you have left to be alive, candidly. So you might, if you've got an amazing genetic pool in your upline, you might live to be a little bit longer than 80 years. Maybe you get 85, 90, but none of us are really going past 100, and most of us, that's kind of about the average. And so if that's true, that's how many years you have left. Then there was a series of questions, basically, how do you want to use those years? And one of the questions, the next question I ask him is, what do you want written on your tombstone? If you could have a phrase, if you could have a sentence, a word, a verse, when they netted out your life at the end, what would you want on your tombstone? And then the next one was, because of your gifts, passions, and experiences, what do you feel like uniquely prepared and called to do? So knowing everything you know about yourself, when you think about the few years that you have left, what do you feel like you're supposed to do, both in general and in specific? And then the next one was, of everything you could accomplish with your life, what are the 1 to 3 things that if you did them, would have the greatest kingdom impact? So if you feel like generally you're called to this, what's the 1 to 3 things, at least today, with your 40 years, your 30 years, your 20 years left, that you feel like if I did those would bring inordinate impact. And then the next one I asked was, hey, what are you not doing because of fear? Like what do you know you should be doing? And I've come to see that as a really important question. One year I gave those on my team a carabiner, and I asked them to put it on their Christmas tree and think about something they could do next year that would just be risky, that lean into the thing that they know that they're fearful of. And what I've come to see is that fear oftentimes is really is a homing ping. It's a thing I'm supposed to move towards, but because I'm fearful, I move away from it. But that's where I should be going. So ask them, hey, what are you not doing because of fear? Next question was, what do you need to start doing in order to finish well? The next one was, what would you need to stop doing in order to finish well? Then after that, what would you need to do in order to finish your life with great joy? That was a couple of podcasts ago. And then when it's all said and done, after that whole exercise, in light of everything above, what is your next 1 to 3 steps? So what are the one, 2, or 3 things you should do like today? Not that you will accomplish in your life, but like right now, what do you need to tee up? And so we just work through those, and I'll put all those in the show notes for you, so you can have those. You can add to those, you can subtract, but that's just what we did kind of on the fly. I took my iPhone out and just typed all those up, shot them to him, and then the next day we just sat around and over breakfast and talked about those, and yielded some really, really good clarifying kind of conversations. And so that's something that we just did. If that's helpful to you, I'd encourage you to kind of set aside some time or ask some of your friends, hey, what are good clarifying questions we could ask ourselves, and then share in community what we're learning. And here's some things that are on my plate before the end of the year. When we think about just kind of evaluating ourselves, this isn't so much about evaluating our ministries or strategic plans, those kinds of things. But here's the 5 things that I've got on my list to do, and 5 things that if you see me in the spring at CLC, you can ask me, did I do them? Keep me accountable. But here's one of the first ones I want to do. I'm going to write each of my kids, my wife, my daughter-in-law, and my grandson a letter. So it would occur to me that if I died today, they, in light of how little time we have left, how they don't really have anything from me, and they don't have anything specifically written to them. And so I think that would be an amazing, kind of half-day exercise. What I'm going to do is put 30 minutes on the calendar for each one of them, and just sit down and just start typing and come up with something. I think over time, I will continue to improve on it, add to it, clarify it, maybe update it through the years. But I want them to have something from me where I can just kind of speak into them, tell them how much I love them, tell them what I see in them, God doing in them, maybe some ideas I have for the ways I think God might use them the rest of their life. And so since they don't have that, that's something I feel like is pretty important, and I want to just start. I'd love to give so much more time, but I'm going to put 30 minutes on the clock for each one of them. I will write it. I will tell my wife, and I will tell my brother where those are, so that if something unforeseen happens, then they will have heard from their dad or from their husband or from their grandfather. And I'll ask them, before the end of the year too, hey, what goals, dreams do you have that you're chasing that I can help you with? And then also, I was just thinking about young leaders here. A lot of young church leaders do not have insurance. They don't have life insurance. And so they've got wives, they've got kids or spouses and kids. And I would encourage you just to go shop for some very, very cheap term insurance. Just in case, God forbid, something happened, that you could get your wife and your kids kind of through college, through some of those expensive years. It doesn't cost much right now. And so when I was just thinking about just tending to my family, my kids are older now, but some of you that are younger, you might just add that to your list. So that's the first thing I want to do. The second one, in terms of like leading myself and reflecting back over the year, it's always a good keep, start, stop exercise to do. But my version of that this year, one of those versions of that, is I'm going to go back over my calendar basically every week and go back to meetings I had, things I attended, ministry that I did, and think about the people that were there. So specifically kind of weighted towards the new people that I met this year. And I'm just going to follow up, and I'm just going to tell them how grateful I was to be a part of that, or to be with them, to meet them. Generally, when I meet someone or spend some time with them of kind of any length, there's something that they say or something who they are that I can still remember, I will take with me and I will still remember it. And I'm just going to write that out and send it to them. And so just kind of between now and the end of the year, and probably even bleeding over to the next year, as I reflect back over the whole year, I want to think about, what I should do more of, what I should do less of. But I want to just kind of celebrate the people that I met, the way God used them, and I want them to know, rather than just kind of me benefiting from that. I want them to know that they did. And so that is probably going to take some time to do, but I imagine I'll just well up with gratitude, and I will remember some of the things that I learned. So the third thing that I'm going to do is just come up with keystone habits for my major kind of areas of life. So you would, however you think about kind of your goals for the year, the categories, you got your spiritual life, your physical health, your family, your finances, learning, all those kinds of things. And I'm really interested this year in what's the one thing I could do that would really kind of put everything else that I need to do in motion under that category. And so that idea is called a keystone habit. You can look it up, and I'm sure there's amazing YouTube videos and talks or ask ChatGPT. But it's this one thing. If you did that, it would kind of create a chain reaction. So, for example, if you are married, so many things you could do. But for many of us, if we just had a date night once a week or every other week or once a month, whatever our rhythm was, probably so many of the other things we need to do would kind of fall into place. Or if it was our finances, if we could just save X number of dollars per month, that probably would take care of a lot of the, our budgeting issues or those kinds of things. In our spiritual life, what is it that if you did that, everything else would mostly be on track? And so what's great about that, as I've been thinking about it, is if you can just come up with simple keystone habits under each of those categories, you don't need then to put extra time on your calendar. You don't need to have a weekly evaluation, a monthly evaluation, a quarterly evaluation. You're just going to kind of know real quickly your scorecard. And if you can then keep it top of mind, then you can actually do it. And I think there's just a real danger in creating a 20-page kind of strategic plan for your life that you never look at, you don't have time to look at. And so this year, before the end of the year, I will come up with kind of keystone habits for each of those categories. And I would encourage you to think about that for yourself. And then number 4, I will come up with kind of really the up to 3 things, no more, that if I did those, it would make my year of ministry and work a success. And yes, there will be so many things I do, but I think if we're honest, if all of us are honest, when we think about 2026, there's probably no more than about 3 things that if we did those, they would have an inordinate impact. And we will return emails, we will go to meetings, we will attend events, plan events, all those kinds of things. But there's probably 3 things that if you're honest with yourself, if you can sit down and say, hey, what should I do? What's the 1 to 3 things that would look like in terms of like faithfulness, real faithfulness? They would move the needle. That's what I think you should do. And that's, friends, that's what I'll commit to you, is that I will, before the end of the year, I will come up with my 3 things for 2026. And those will get an inordinate amount of my energy. And those will be some of the things that I focus on, in addition to just all the other daily upkeep of my job and all the other things. But there's about 3 things I think that I'm going to come up with that I will be accountable for, and I think will feel like faithfulness to God next year. And then number 5 question I will answer for myself. I will bring Pam into the combo is, what do I need to do to create kind of energy and joy? And so I did a podcast on that recently, just about what would it look like to finish with joy. But when I look back over seasons of ministry that have been fun, there's both the actual ministry, but there's something off to the side that is also creating energy. So best example I have of that is when we, as a family, we did that quest to see a ball game in all 30 major league ballparks. And so that actually was it was pretty hard to pull off. There was a lot of planning. We had to have a lot of things line up for calendar. We had to, because we didn't have a lot of money, we did so on the cheap, and that was a whole nother challenge. But there was something about that quest, because of the way that I'm wired, that I just had energy that I could leverage into my job. And so I think my question for you, and I've got some ideas for myself, but hey, what is it uniquely that you could do that would create energy and joy in your life that would carry over into your work and into your relationships. My brother just recently took up woodworking, and he got a lathe, and he's making these wooden bowls. And so he shows me pictures. He's so excited, and it's giving him life. That's great. That's not my scene. It is for him. He loves it. So if that's you, go get a lathe. I don't even know how a lathe works. I had a friend who just loves to fish, and I think about the heat of Texas and fishing in the summer. It sounds terrible. He loved it. And, he's a pastor on a fixed income. And so what he did was he saved some money, and he didn't buy a brand new bass boat, didn't buy a used bass boat. He bought some kind of metal, it was a dinghy. It was probably a more technical term than that, and figured out a way to kind of put a trolling motor on there. And that's what he did, and he went out, and he would kind of, a couple times a month, he would just go fish. And I would come back, the next day and ask him how his time was. And he would I remember, the light bulbs were burning brighter. He was so excited because he had just, in a way that I can't account for, he was out on a lake just sweating, trying to catch fish, but it just did it for him. And he was a better leader. And so I've got some ideas for myself, but I want to get clarity and get Pam's just kind of buy in on that for she and I to do together. What is it that would kind of create energy and joy? So those are the 5 things that I will do, this year and before the end of the year. And if any of those are helpful to you, and just as we evaluate ourselves into the year, I've got just a couple of the thoughts. One, a lot of us will move towards like strategic plans. This is not that episode. I think those are really important. We should do those. There's another episode on that. But I really do think the one thing you can do that no one else can do is just lead yourself. And so make sure whatever it is that you're doing, you kind of have carving some time off to lead yourself, to reflect, to examine your life. Socrates, an unexamined life is not worth living. And then I do want to say, for some of us, December is absolute chaos, and be free. If this is a terrible time to do that, some of you might come up for air maybe this summer. I was thinking about how to late to mid-June could be really, really great for pastors, or July. And if that's when everything slows down, make your calendar year, or if that's when everything slows down, make your year, your 12 months start in July or June, and do all your evaluation then. Just be free, to not have to be constrained by all the marketing emails are going to come at you about making this your best life, that it will hit you end of year and beginning of January. And a couple things I would do, I think if I could go back and do it again, number one, I would capture questions that both clarify and provoke me. I would just keep a list of questions, like one of those would be, hey, what should I do that I'm afraid of, right? Where is the fear? I would capture that. Just throughout the years, I hear things, I would come up with a list. And then I would try, I think, to evaluate and use some of the same process every single year, so that there was consistency. And I've got some friends who have been in the same format for the last 15 years, and they talk about the way they're able to compare. So that might be something that you think of. But whatever it is, come up with your own plan. You can ask friends what they do. You can sit with chat for 15 minutes and tell it what you want to evaluate, and let it create a plan for you. But make sure that you spend some time just kind of thinking about, what would be the best stewardship of your gifts next year? What would that look like? So those are the 5 things that I'm doing. You kind of come up with your own plan. Keep it simple would be my admonition to you. So friends, we're heading into Christmas, and at CLC this year we gave away Athanasius on the Incarnation. So many of us will be reading that. Just kind of remember the wonder, the absolute wonder of the Incarnation, and what that means to us as followers of Christ, and not to be confused with all of the Christmas season with gifts and trees and parties and sweaters. That's all great. But this season is about the Incarnation, and I personally don't want to miss it. I don't want you to miss it. I don't want my friends to miss it. So whatever it is for you, that could be a helpful tool, but you do something that would stir your affections and remembrance of the wonder of the Incarnation. You want to make sure you spend some time with your family. A lot of pastors are working so hard. They want to get an A+ for the Christmas Eve service, and you should. But make sure you save something for your family, and make sure you also get an A there. A lot of people will have a little bit more time at the end of the year, and see that as a gift. Make sure that you spend some time with them. And finally, friends, I just want to say thanks. I just want to say thanks for your faithfulness this year. And I feel like this verse gets so overused about Philippians 1, 3, 4. I thank my God every time I remember you, and all my prayers for all of you, I pray with joy. Really, because, and 5, because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for all the ways that you have been so faithful this year, for the ways that you've sacrificed, you've shown up for people and just absorbed some of their pain, some of the things that they were going through, even though they didn't ask you how you were doing. For the ways you showed up early, you stayed late to events, the ways you prayed, the ways you planned, the ways you sacrificed, all the ways you just showed up as a servant of God, using your gifts to build up his church, that honestly, no one would know. They would tell you thanks if they did know. Some of them would anyway. But because so many people won't come back and say thanks, I just want to tell you thank you. And I hold you in very high regard. And I pray this season is full of great joy. You remember the incarnation. You remember the wonder. You remember it's why we do what we do. And I pray you have some time to rest. But friends, as a kind of the parting words for the year, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your faithfulness in 2025. We're working on some really fun ideas for 2026. I hope to let you know about ways we can serve you. But last thing I want you to hear me say in 2025 is thank you for your faithfulness. I hold you in very high regard for all the ways you're using your gifts to build up Christ Church. So friends, thank you for this year. Thanks for letting us serve you. If you have any questions, you have any comments, ways we can serve you, you can always reach us at clp@watermark.org. That's clp@watermark.org. We'll talk to you again next time.